Okay. So I'm call the meeting to order, the regular meeting of the Kirkwood Meadows Public Utility District. And we'll start with the roll call.
Sure. Epstein,
Present.
Schroeder,
Present.
Perot. Yeah. Sharonda.
Here.
Okay, we got the whole board.
Okay. Any announcements, Eric?
Just like to welcome everybody to the regular special board meeting, and please use the raise your hand function if you would like to speak.
Okay, good. So we move on to any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar. Does anyone have any?
No.
Okay, we'll leave it as is. Next is comments from the audience. Do we have Rick?
Yes, I have one. Good afternoon. I'm Rick Ansel, Fire Chief of the Volunteer Fire Department, and it gives me great pleasure to announce to the board that we're promoting our Captain Tom Harris to Assistant Chief today. And so we'd like to formally recognize his hard work since 2019 for the Volunteer Fire Department. And it's been instrumental with our training, the operations, and he likes to spend money and buy equipment, but it's much needed. So we thank you for all his efforts. So Tom, would you like to come up? I'd like to train you with a badge and position you with your new white Chief's helmet. So let's take this captain's off first. Okay. Try to cause as much harm as possible. Sure. Congratulations. Thank you. Here's your official helmet. Let's see the photo. But thank you, Tom. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you. Shake you guys' hand if you were here.
Yeah, so another item not on the agenda. I'd like to introduce our new clerk of the board and accounting specialist 2, Brittany Morris. So,
Hi, Brittany.
Hello. Your name is
Brittany.
Brittany.
Yeah.
she comes to us from a water district over in Nevada, where she had very similar duties, and we're looking forward to her settling in. We've already signed her up for the clerk of the board conference in November to get her acquainted with the California sort of side of things, such as the Brown Act, which they don't have in Nevada. So happy to have her on board.
Thank you for joining us. Any other comments from the audience?
Howard Hoffman has his hand up.
Okay, Howard.
Yes, thank you. So in the packet this time, you've got the letter that I wrote, and I had asked for consideration by the board of 3 specific items. And I want to just focus on one of those right now, and that would be consideration of a minimum monthly charge for wastewater. And I know you can't respond to this now, but I had requested that this be placed on the agenda or referred to a committee. I guess is another way of dealing with it, but I'd like this to be considered sooner rather than later. Certainly not waiting. The wastewater charges are going up and will be going up each year. There are scheduled increases. And I think it's an appropriate time to consider having a minimum monthly charge for wastewater. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Eric?
I don't see any now.
Okay, in the written comments from the public, we have Howard's letter that was
That is
inadvertently left out of the last packet, for which we apologize. Okay, then we move on to the adoption of the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve it?
Yes, Dornbrook, so moved.
Okay, second.
a second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Epstein,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Sharonda,
Aye.
Perot,
Aye.
Dornbrook, aye, it's unanimous.
Okay, then we're ready to move on to item 9A, the fiscal year 21-22 annual audit, and we welcome Olga Darlington from Moss Adams.
All right, I don't know what's easier. We'll try it. We'll see. Is this working? Is this loud?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today I have a quick presentation on the results of the independent financial audit of the district's financial statements as of June 30th, 2022. On the first slide here, we have a summary of the auditor's reports that will be issued once you approve the financial statements. The reports we will be issuing are unmodified opinion on the financial statements of a district as a whole, as well as of its individual funds, which is government funds, business type activities, and a fiduciary fund that's included in a set of financial statements. In addition to that, we'll be issuing a compliance report, which is RUS management letter that's required to be submitted to RUS as a condition of the loan that we have.
I think we need to go to slide 2.
I am on slide 2. Are you not?
Is this auditor's report slide that you see, Kelly?
I just see the only thing that we're seeing is just the first title page.
You're not seeing any of those?
No, the only thing I'm
Pages?
seeing is the title slide.
Well, then.
Do you want me to share my screen?
No, I'm sharing it, Kelly. It's just
Oh,
not
okay.
changing the slides over. It's not.
Click, maybe you have to click enable editing at the top there.
Maybe.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, but that's not the, oops.
Oops.
Yeah. Let's try this again. So just when I go to slideshow, it's where it's not cooperating. Are you seeing the second slide now?
Yep, we're seeing it
Okay.
now.
It had to
Okay.
be enable editing, apparently.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Just a reminder that the audit was performed in accordance with government auditing standards, which requires us to evaluate internal controls of the district that pertain to financial reporting. So putting all of the financial information together for the annual report, and that those standards require us to issue a report on internal controls if we have any findings. So the report we have issued is without any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies because we did not have any findings as well. So all in all, once again, a clean record for the district with respect to the audit.
We can take just a moment to smile and say we're very happy that that's the situation.
It's, and I do have to remind my clients that it's a one slide that summarizes an enormous amount of work that the district staff has to help us with making sure that we get all of the support that we request for, that we get comfortable with all of the transactions and numbers. So it's a big thank you to district staff for keeping a good record. So. Responsibility under auditing standards, I always kind of remind of what our responsibility is as an auditor. So this is more or less of a familiar slide where we have to be independent of the financial statements and of the management and of the district in performing the annual audit, financial audit. We did follow a new accounting auditing standard that was effective for 22 year-end audits. And the biggest impact of that auditing standard that's visible to the readers of financial statements is how the auditor's opinion will look. And it probably added an extra page in terms of what's the content of it. And the two biggest pieces is the auditor's responsibility section is detailed in much more detail that it previously had. And it also added a section on management's responsibilities to be very clear what auditor is responsible for in performing an audit and what's management responsibility is. So when you read the auditor's report, once we finalize and provide it to you, you'll notice that the first opinion or first paragraph in the report is the auditor's opinion that highlights the unmodified report. And then the rest of the content of the auditor's opinion identifies some of the responsibilities of parties that are part to the audit. So. Next slide. Some of the communications that we are required to provide to those charged with governance is highlighting significant accounting policies. I'm just pleased to inform you that there weren't any significant changes to accounting policies. There was one new standard, GASB standard, that was effective for this year's reporting period, and I'll highlight the contents of that later. It didn't have a significant impact on the financial statements of the district, so pretty uneventful implementation there. And then we always pay particular attention to management's estimates, just because the assumptions there are a little bit more judgmental as opposed to us reviewing third-party reports or confirmations. So management estimates included here, pretty straightforward. None of them changed from previous years, and that's depreciable lives of asset, actuarial evaluations for OPEB and pension plans and so forth. So all in all, pretty similar to prior year. No difficulties in getting the audit done or getting through the information that the district provided. I think once again that everybody at district staff was very helpful and responsive to our requests. No disagreements on implementation of accounting policies or standards. There was one uncorrected misstatement that was not recorded in the financial statements, and it's actually more of a reclassification statement or a reclassification entry of where the accounts receivable balance should be between the governmental funds and business type activities. $39,000, not material to the overall financial statements of the district, so we agreed with management that it did not need to be posted. Other than that, there were no other material audit adjustments that we found during the audit. Once again, big kudos to the staff here that we didn't really find anything. So everything was in good order when we received the records. I mentioned one new accounting standard, GASB 87, pertaining to leases. The gist of the standard is that any agreements that the district may have that in the past would have been considered an operating lease, for example, and an operating expense during the year, is now considered a financing right to use an asset. So all leases going forward will be classified similarly to what capital leases were in the past, was a liability on the financial statements and an asset on the financial statements that are being amortized over the life of the agreement. The district doesn't have very many leases at all, so that's why I said the implementation of the standard was not very material. Well, it wasn't material at all. So I do have some other clients that do end up with big balances on the balance sheet, but non-eventful here, which was good news. As far as we know, management didn't consult with any other accountants on implementation of accounting policies or standards. And then just in the normal course of business, district is exposed to various risks and contingencies and commitments. So those are disclosed in the footnotes to the financial statements as well. New accounting pronouncement, I mentioned 87 that was implemented. 96 is another one that's really similar to leases, but pertains to intangible assets. So any software type agreements or IT type agreements, cloud computing, cloud storage type of agreements will now be accounted for in a similar way as the leases, where you put a liability and an asset on the balance sheet for the term of the lease for the piece of the agreement that's not considered maintenance or training. So it's a right to use third parties, virtual or intangible assets. That will be effective in 2023. So we'll work with management on analyzing that and see if that would
Those are
have any.
things that are just currently in an operating cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I believe that was it. I think, oh, there's, yep, no, I think let's go to the next one and the next one. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Very good. Going back to the big thank you. Yes, we do want to say big thank you to the staff. And the one I thought I had in here was the comment on internal control, just general was a small staff here. We always talk about segregation of duties, but we do find mitigating controls with general manager's involvement and the board really a close involvement in review of the financial information on a monthly basis. So we feel very comfortable that there is no material weaknesses unless there's a collusion, which is a different issue. That's
Right.
fraud. We're not designing our audit procedures to find fraud, but we do try to poke around to see if anything comes to light, and there's nothing there that we could report to you as far as any instances of fraud that we identified during the audit. But all in all, a clean bill of health, as I said, and a huge thank you to staff here at the district for all their help. The audit was conducted remotely again, and it went very well, very smooth. So it was it's good. Any questions?
I'd like to ask, so I understand that's basically what you said, but I want to focus a bit more precisely. So your observation of our governance structure, knowing we are a small entity, seems appropriate in your view.
We do look at internal controls, whether it's appropriate or not. We do look whether there's sufficient segregation of duties. So between initiation of transactions, approval of those transactions, and review of those transactions. And we find that there are controls in place that allow for certain segregation, although it may not be complete. There's additional mitigating controls that we can rely on to make sure that the financial information overall, as it's presented to you for monthly in monthly reports and at the annual report, is accurate.
Okay, are there any comments from the finance committee?
The finance committee reviewed this during the week. Didn't have any issues. We were looking for the final notes and reports. The final report. What's the status on that?
So once the draft report is approved today, we will finalize the annual report and include our audit opinion in that report. And we can have it available early next week.
Okay.
Our procedures are completed.
The final draft was provided in the revised board packet though, John. So you had the an initial draft, but the final draft I sent out in the revised board packet.
Well, we'll get the notes next week.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
When you say notes, you mean, so I think that there was an earlier question about management letter. There isn't a management letter that we issued separately from this report to the board. Generally, we issue that if we have a finding like a significant deficiency or material weakness, as I mentioned earlier. Since we didn't have those, we didn't issue a written report that states that.
Okay.
The reason why we ask is there's a couple of blank pages in the draft.
That is an auditor's opinion, and we don't provide the draft of that until we actually finalize the audit and sign the report. So those in the
Okay.
beginning of the audit or of the draft of the financials, that is a placement of auditor's report. Yeah, auditor's opinion.
Yeah, it said management letter that I was looking for. And it sounds like it's just not there because there's no content for it.
Correct, yes.
Okay, that's fine. It's better than having.
That's better than it's great.
Yeah,
We'll find something
5 years
next
we
year.
haven't had one since I've been here, so I'm excited.
All right,
okay.
thank you for
Any
your
other
time.
questions?
Any questions on the audit itself?
No, thank you very much. Thank you and your team.
So the one comment I would like to see after auditing, so we are actually not paying back about 2.5 million a year, which means in 28 years, we should be in a better shape. At least the numbers have been confirmed here.
Any other questions or otherwise?
No, I think we're
Motion
fine.
to adopt.
Okay, so we need a motion to adopt the auditor's report.
Yeah, a motion to adopt.
Okay, and a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So roll call.
Epstein,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Minutes, Rhonda,
Aye.
Perot,
Aye.
Dornbrook, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Olga.
It's good to see you. Thank you very much.
okay. Right. All right, so item 9B, finances.
Kelly, you want to give me a page on that?
89. So starting with the balance sheet for August.
Just give us 1 second to get the sheet.
Oh,
up.
sure.
For some reason, it's showing on my screen fine, but it's not showing.
Yeah, I think that's the
Kelly,
full
can you
screen.
confirm that page 89 is up now on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. It's not doing it on the TV for some reason, so.
Well, it is on the Zoom meeting. Okay, so starting with the balance sheet on page 89. You'll note that total operating cash is up from plan by almost $335,000. So a good start. Nothing really else to report on the balance sheet unless there's any questions. Okay, moving on to then the revenue account by fund. You'll note that water is in the negative, but again, that happens every year when we make our principal and interest payment to for the COP loans. So I expect water to come back into the positive by the end of the year. You'll also notice that employee housing is out a negative. That will change in September because we received our payment for the sale of the Meadows unit. And so hopefully we won't have to allocate any property tax revenue to employee housing for a year or so. Any other questions on the revenue account by fund? Okay. Moving on to,
So maybe one question on the propane. Let me see if I can find it here. So actually, it's related to propane, but it's not specifically to the numbers here. So I sent you an email a while ago about potential discrepancy on the multiplier for specific invoicing. And I wanted to have a feedback on if you have identified the problem and how wide it is.
yes, we did identify the problem. It was a PCS issue when they did the mass update for to change the multiplier on the propane accounts. There were 4 accounts that the multiplier didn't get changed from the 0.78 to the 78. So those 4 accounts have been corrected.
Okay, and it was mostly probably because you had populated the database, so it was mostly most likely a problem with new account. Is that correct?
No, they weren't all. No, they weren't all new accounts. It was just an anomaly with the 4 accounts, and it wasn't just new accounts. No, it was just when PCS did that mass update for us. 4 of the accounts didn't get the update didn't go through to those 4 accounts, but they have been corrected.
Okay, so that means now you have 100% confidence that all the accounts have the proper multiplier.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on then to the water fund on page 95 of your packet. You can see revenues for water were down by about $7,600 for the month of August, and that's mainly due to the residential usage being down from plan. Year to date, operating revenues for water are down from plan by $8,400, again, mainly due to the residential usage being down from plan. Year-to-date total operating for water is actually up from plan. So that's a good sign. Any questions about the water income statement? Okay, moving on to wastewater on page 96. Operating revenues year-to-date for wastewater are down from plan by about $14,000. And again, that's mainly due to reduced commercial and residential usage. Year-to-date total operating for water is also up from plan by $24,000. So, and that's just due to, you can see we salaries and wages and operations and maintenance are all under budget for through August. Moving on to electric on page 98. Operating revenues year-to-date for electric are down from plan by about $5,200. And that is mainly due to our internal usage being down from plan. Year-to-date total operating for electric is down from plan by about $12,000. And that is mainly due to, you can see the cost of goods sold year-to-date is over budget by $14,000, which is mainly due to the timing of when we had budgeted for diesel fuel costs. I believe I had our big diesel fuel costs budgeted for October and December, I believe are the 2 months we normally budget for increased diesel costs. So that will come back into line once we get through when we actually had diesel costs budgeted. Any questions on electric?
So I have a general question. So here, so are we seeing an uptick on the cost of electricity for now, or is that still stable?
Still stable.
So we are still at what rate, 8 cents? Something?
Yeah, we're right. We're right in the wheelhouse of what we
Yeah,
budgeted.
like
But this
we did
this has to do with diesel, as you said.
Right,
So,
there's in that cost of goods sold is both diesel and our purchase power, but our purchase power is
Stable.
right on plan, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to propane on page 101. Operating revenues for propane are down from plan by $27,000, and that's mainly due to residential and commercial usage being down from plan. Total operating for propane is down from plan by about $4,000. And again, that's just mainly due to the commercial and residential usage being down from plan. Any questions on propane or any other questions on propane? Okay, that is all I have for August financials, unless there are any other questions. Okay, so moving on to September preliminary income statement. You can see these are actual revenues for September, and you can see commercial base rates for September is considerably above plan. And that was due to a billing error that we discovered. And so we had to back bill base rates for all the customers that were on the wastewater high strength usage because their base rates were not being billed properly from when we created the new base rate or the new rate, the wastewater high strength rate in PCS. So those 7 accounts or 8 accounts were back billed to correct the billing issue.
Kelly, you want to just clarify the time frame and then
Sure.
how
So,
long, how long this will be out of higher than budget?
well, it'll show higher than budget for the rest of the year because those back billings were billed in September. So that's just going to carry through for the rest of the year. But the problem started in July of 2020 when we created that new wastewater high strength, the rate for the restaurants in the valley. And what was happening was our billing system was not applying the multiplier to the base rate for those customers that were on that high strength wastewater rate. So we had to go back and bill for 26 months of the billing system not properly multiplying out their base rate costs. So all of those restaurants were just being billed for a single base rate. The multiplier that was supposed to be applied wasn't being billed out onto their bill. And so we back billed for all of those for those 26 months.
So are we taking all the revenue up front, even though the cash payments are being spread out?
Yes, I mean that's the way that it works. When you do a back billing, it gets billed in the month that that you actually do the billing. If the board would like to, we can definitely spread that revenue out because we're spreading out the payments of that revenue. But I think it's more appropriate to bill the revenue now because it's 26 months past the time it should have been posted. And
Yeah.
then we'll just have the AR on our books for the 26 months that the payments for those back billing come through.
Yeah.
So how does the customer reacted to that news that they had basically not pay what they were supposed to pay?
How
Do you
is
have
it
any customer?
there are,
But for a business, you are basically doing it's actually create complication to spread that on multiple fiscal years. So I just wonder if you had any reaction.
We had a lot of questions,
Yes.
so we've been answering them.
but
So-
obviously since our regulation states that everybody pays base rates in perpetuity, there's no reason why we wouldn't have back billed for that because it was
I do not disagree with that.
error.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what the financial impact, but if a customer had major difficulties, personally, it's a bad decision here, but I would be comfortable in spreading if someone has a major.
So just to be clear, and Kelly said this, but just to be clear, this occurred over a 26-month period. We're giving them the chance to either pay it all lump sum or pay it over 26 months.
Ah, okay.
Mhm.
So there is an option to spread it.
That's how the ordinance is written. That we spread it, but if they want to pay it all at once, they can.
Okay.
But right now, the ordinance spreads it over the time period in which it occurs, which is 26 months.
And the
Thank you.
first billing did occur with a September billing. That was when the first, so all of those 7 or 8 accounts have been set up to spread that out over 26 months because we haven't heard from anybody that they wanted to pay it all up front. The resort may choose to because the resort has 7 of the accounts, and then the one other restaurant in the valley is the 8th account.
So
But
are
currently they are being billed over the 26 months.
you doing something similar for the propane that was not billed appropriately with a multiplier issue?
That
Oh.
was in the customer's favor.
That was what?
That was in the customer's favor. that those four accounts, that small amount of propane, it wasn't enough to cause any type of
So if you use a
Major-
multiplier 100 times lower, people are basically paying 1% of what they are supposed to.
right, but the amount of propane that was used, the cost of it was not,
Yeah.
was not,
That's true. It was just a few months. Okay.
right.
Okay, should we move on to cash flow?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we ended September at 1.6 million in total operating cash, which was about $300,000 better than planned. And moving forward, our lowest month does, as it usually is December of this year. And we're forecasted to be at 1.6 million, which is still, better than planned. So even at our low point, we're still better than planned. The budget was for 1.1 million, so a good start to the first quarter of the year. Any questions on cash flow?
So I'm confused here. You said that we are better than planned on the revenues. Is that what you said?
No,
Or
in
on
our cash, our
cash.
total cash. The budget is the green line, and the black, the total operating cash is what our actual
Yes.
was. So yes,
Got
we
it.
are better than planned currently.
And we like more cash.
Yeah. Okay, the budget variance.
And so I just have budget variances through August. Obviously, we generally don't put positive budget variances on the budget variance sheet. But that's up to the board whether you would like to put for September the budget variance for the commercial base rates. But the only thing that budget variance that needed to be reported through August was for the diesel cost of goods sold.
That's just due to the higher cost of gasoline.
No, it's,
That
we
was
budgeted
usage.
for, we budgeted for $1,400 worth of diesel use in July, and we actually incurred about $14,000 worth of diesel costs in July because of the electrifier when we had to go on generators.
Okay.
That number will go up because then after that, we'll have the rolling blackouts next. That'll come in. And we do have a scheduled outage with PG&E at the end of October, which will, that's Kelly budgeted correctly because October is when PG&E always does their maintenance, and they are doing that again. So we will be on generators for a few days in October.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Let's move on to item 9C, performance reporting.
Hi, everybody. So if we take a look at electric first, you can see that in the month of September, we had a production of 387,000 kilowatt hours. This is purchased from the grid. Our losses for the month were 15%, which brings us to 20% year to date. This is exactly where we were sitting last year to date at this point in electric. There was a correction in propane. The July number that was previously in the performance report, Bob noticed that it was incorrect. There was a clerical error when I put that in. So that has been updated, which brings us to a 4% loss year to date, a positive 4% loss year to date in propane. Last year, we were at negative 4% at this time of the year. And the last year's performance report is in your packet as well to take a look at. As far as water goes, September, we had 550 4,000 gallons of water produced from our wells, 15% unidentified losses for the month, and 15% year to date. And then lastly, in September for wastewater, we had 504,500 gallons of influent metered coming into the plant. Of that, 10% was unidentified. So I getting into the system, leaving us with 11% year to date. Included also in the packet, we have our graphs showing graphically the aquifer levels, the electric, propane, and water use versus the temperature. And we have last year's performance reporting for comparison. And we are working to confirm with the report server that all of the numbers here are compatible and accurate when we compare them to the numbers from the report server. Are there any questions on performance reporting?
So if you go back to the electrical first, so last 2 years we end up with much higher losses and than typical that we used to. I mean, we have a goal of 12% because this is about what we are doing in the past. And so, and now we are hovering at 20%. And I just wonder if you have any insight on what's going on. I don't know if the engineer study for electricity has been completed as well. So my question is, first, do you have any insight or why our number could be higher now? I mean, I know in the past you mentioned, and we had a lot of switching to local generation at the power plant. That could increase our losses because of the ramping up of the system and whatever. But in this case, I just don't have it here, but if you we were not actually running the generators. We didn't have any shortage for some of this month. So again, do you have any, do you concur that our loss seems to have increased? And second, do you have any insight? And third, do we have a plan to try to find out what's going on?
Got it. So it is something that we are aware of and tracking. We see various losses over a month-to-month basis, as you mentioned, if we have to switch to generators or if it's a month where we don't get to the backside to do reads. So I'm trying to take a look back at performance report for last fiscal year, the end of the year. It was a little high. 12% is our goal, not because we consistently made that, but because it seemed like something we could get. So it is something that we want to try to achieve. The engineer study is still being worked on. Eric has an update on that. But I don't have any insight as to any physical changes that we're aware of right now that would account for an increase. It is something that we are watching, and we are hoping that we get some insights from our engineering report.
Yeah, for the last 2 months, I see you have 0 kilowatt hour generated. So I'm assuming we have not switched from the grid to the powerhouse. So it doesn't show actually a slight decrease, but still well above what we are used to have. So that's why basically my concern. And I think we need to ramp up our effort to try to understand what's going on. Personally, I'm suspicious of all the lift generator being energized during the summer because it's on just energizing a transformer is consuming stuff and it's pre-meter. So I just wonder, that's why I'm curious to see that engineer study and what they find out about our infrastructure.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Randy. We'll move on to item 9D, propane electric meter shed status.
Let's go back up, Eric. Thank you. So we have now gotten over 51% that are built to standard. So that's a huge thank you to all in the valley protecting our assets, their assets, and helping the firefighters. As you can see from here, 31% and that 36 lower can be accomplished by signing the indemnity agreement. So that's even more that we're very close to. Are there any questions?
Well, my first question was, I see you have date for shut-offs as progressive. I'm not sure why it came out this way, but that's the way it is. In the people that actually would be susceptible to shut off if they are not correcting the situation in the coming winters, what percentage of people that actually are now BTS, like you said, built to standard? So
Is that bottom
just trying to
right number,
anticipate if we are going to
51%?
get- If we are going to get shut off scheduled for during the winter or not.
Yeah, I think what Tommy is saying, the only shut off scheduled for this, the first half of the winter are simply the low tier. So all they have to do is sign the indemnity agreement.
Yeah.
That's literally all that has to be done.
Yeah.
And then there's a few higher ones that would be January,
And
February.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so, you know, the time's told based on, we sent out certified letters. So when we got proof of certified letters, or we actually served someone personally, that's when the time started tolling, and we followed. That's why it's all staggered, because some people didn't accept their certified letters. Some people had a bad email. Somebody wouldn't answer their phone. Some people wouldn't answer their email. When we finally got proof of it, that was that. That's why these keep rolling
Okay.
and different dates, but they are all based on the time schedule in the ordinance, based on when they were served their first notice, and we have proof of them being served their first notice. So that's what's going on there.
Well said.
Do you
So
have any-
this 3 account that could be shut off in January, February,
Yes.
did they comply or are still non-compliant?
So they're non-compliant. So you're talking about the 3 high, the 1 and the 2.
The 1 and 2 in the high, yeah.
Yes, they have to construct improvements, and indemnity. I don't think indemnity agreements will carry them at all at this point. Correct, Tommy?
No, everyone has signed the indemnity agreement except the one shut off,
So they're
except any of the lows.
Yeah.
All the lows have not needed to sign the indemnity agreement. If once they do, they're done. But
during-
all the mediums, all the highs have been signed.
So I guess the answer to your question, Bertrand, which I think is where you're going, how many could be shut off through the winter? It looked 30. How many could avoid it because of the indemnity agreement? 27.
Yeah.
But they've had notice for a year and a half. This is not a surprise.
Yeah, I'm still concerned on, I know we have our ordinance that basically try to protect us, but on shutting off people during the winter. So that's one of my concern I have.
They could have complied.
Yeah.
That was a very easy way to
And
avoid
the
that.
second one is on the one that has been shut off already. Is there any progress on that front?
No.
Any visibility on the January, February 3 potential shut-offs? Do you have any visibility if they're taking any action to comply?
The 2 in February, I've seen some movement. I haven't seen any for the January movement so far. But I mean, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know until they tell us that it's been completed.
Okay.
When they call for reinspection is when we'll go back out and see them. So they may be being worked on now, but we don't stop by on a daily basis to see if they're doing work, because we have other work to do. But potentially the propane disconnection policy could eliminate some of these as well. If they
Yeah.
choose to disconnect versus construct, that would be, if the board approves that, that would be an option.
Yeah, one of my concerns is actually not the propane. I think that's fairly legitimate to actually disconnect people who are actually presenting a safety risk. I'm concerned about when you cut the water as well, And that's where I have some concern.
Let's get to the propane disconnection policy then.
Well, actually, if you look at the policy, it says that if you have an auxiliary mean of heating, water does not have to be shut off.
All right, Tommy, anything else you want to cover?
Unless there's any other questions.
I guess the only thing I'd like to do is the board voted on this policy, implemented it, because there's nothing worse than watching a house burn down.
Correct.
And while,
Works.
and risking our own, lives to try to get to the shut-off valve. So while this has been painful, I'm really proud of the work that the staff has done. They've endured a lot in the customers, and it's just important that we get these things safe. And
Right.
so I want to thank you for I know the policy that we voted on and approved was not an easy one to implement.
But it's needed.
But yeah,
So thank you.
I think these numbers will look better in a few months because a lot of people that I've talked to are having trouble getting contractors to build their sheds, especially in the medium risk.
And we do have 3 that are in the process of reinspection. One just
Right.
has a
So I think the
small,
numbers are going to look better
Wow.
actually than what we're seeing here.
That would be welcome. Okay, thank you. Let's move on then to the,
Just Bob, just as a quick interruption, I saw there
Yeah,
were some
please.
chat questions posted by someone in the community. I don't know if Eric, do you want them to raise their hand to ask the questions or how what the
Sorry, I
process
didn't.
works for that?
I
just saw them
thank you
come
for
through.
noticing. Sorry.
How many homes as of today's date have had their propane shut off? 1. Out of those, how many have their water shut off? 1.
correct. 1 out of 237, I want to say,
Yeah. If you include,
39.
yeah, if you include commercial, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not including commercial either. That's
Right.
just residential.
Water shut off due to worries of freezing pipes. Water shut off in accordance with the ordinance. Moving on to the disconnection if we could.
Okay,
So we've had one customer that wants to disconnect. Obviously, the board, has ceased offering propane service under different schedules, depending on whether it's a new construction, new subdivision parcel.
Yeah.
So whether it's a new construction or a subdivision, so that's all been there. But some, we do have a supply limitation, as we found out in Christmas last year. So that was really tight. I mean, Brandy was very, very nervous. I mean, we were down to nothing. So in the interest of encouraging electrification or reducing the demand on the propane supply, we had district council draft a policy. We have a policy to disconnect from some of our other enterprise services. We don't have one for propane. So I thought it was appropriate in light of particular one customer who wants to disconnect now. I can't let him. I don't have an ordinance. It's beyond my authority. It's a board authority. So that's why I had him draft the ordinance. That's what this is for. I think it has the added benefit that if someone wants to continue to refuse to comply with our ordinance, they could simply say, shut off my propane. And then we would have no issue with, they wouldn't have to build the shed at all. That would give them another opportunity to avoid having to build the shed. So.
one question about shut off. If they do have a curb stop, we would just do it there, right? If they don't, how would we shut it off?
At the meter, if we had, well, if they want to disconnect, are you asking?
Yeah, if they
If
want
they
to,
want to disconnect, part of the policy is we have to go all the way back and cut it off and crimp it and cap it. That's what we would be doing.
No, but
okay,
I think the question from Bob is, if there is a shut off at the curb stop,
Yes.
so is that where you are going?
Yeah, so if there is a curb stop, we would dig down to the curb stop, shut it off at the curb stop and actually physically
cap it.
cap it.
Yeah.
So somebody couldn't just play with a curb stop. We would actually, I think we're gonna, Randy, correct me, we're gonna remove it actually behind the curb stop, correct?
Our plan
Yeah,
would
we're
be
gonna
to
pull the curb
remove,
Pull the curb
pull the
stop.
curb stop out and cap it before that, so that there is no potential for reconnection. There's no confusion for firefighters in the event of a fire. Just remove everything.
Yeah, so there is some digging to do there, but on the other hand, you have to remove the meter, I'm assuming as well, but you don't have to make people remove the pipe. It's just
No, we would,
just capping and meter.
correct. We would do the portion at the transmission line and we would remove the meter and regulator.
Yeah.
So the in-between stuff would be dead
Yeah, it'd be
ostensibly
dead, but it
and can be left in place
Yeah.
for most part, right, Randy?
Yes, between the shut off cap and the riser could be left in place unless the customer wants to remove it. But we would have everything above ground removed.
Can I ask a question related to that, I guess, which was the document talks about permanency here and acknowledging that I don't know all the engineering details of some of which was just discussed in terms of how this logistically works, but there's talking about permanency, and it wasn't clear to me in reading this how permanency is associated. Is it associated through that owner, that property? Is it put into like if they're saying that they can never come back on? What does that apply to exactly?
Yeah, so if they disconnect now, they would then fall into the category of the other ordinance where the board decided to stop providing propane under certain timelines. So they would be not a customer and therefore we would not do new connections for them. They would not be in that category. So permanency means the combination of the prior ordinance the board passed and the combination of this would be the permanency.
And if a new owner wanted to reverse that decision, they would pay a connection fee if they're within the timeline
If they were
Well,
within the time.
where we're allowing new connections.
Correct.
Thanks.
So
And then, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Bertrand. I was gonna say, a couple other questions I just had in reading this to help me understand. So it talks about general manager or a designee's approval to deny this request. Can you just give me examples of what scenarios in which you would deny it, I guess, or what would that look like potentially?
I can't give you an example. This is written by a lawyer, not by a operator.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I can't give you an example where it would be denied, but I mean, if there was maybe a life and safety issue, that might be something to consider, but I don't know.
Okay. And then I think my last question would be, some of the language I was reading about who pays for things was a bit, I mean, I read it, I think I could read it in multiple ways where it was saying that the customer has to pay for everything. But then there's talking about like KMPUD staff being involved. And I wasn't sure if that implied that there was that the customer would have to pay for district time as well.
Yes.
And if so,
yeah, we don't want some of those tasks that are in there. We don't want independent third parties touching our system. So district staff would have to do that work and would be reimbursed for it.
okay,
That's why that's because there's some work that a homeowner could have a contractor do. Some work we don't want them touching our system, especially something that can explode.
yeah, I understand I definitely understand that aspect of it. I just don't remember reading it being entirely sure that was clear to me. But that could have just been my read of it. So I will take that as my own ability to read this statement.
I can tell you when district council asked that question, we conveyed that to him. He wrote it accordingly. So
As long as we're covered, then that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, and yeah,
So are we discussing an ordinance or the policy?
yes.
At this time, because I have a few
yeah, the
questions as well.
disconnection policy, yes.
So I had the same question about what could make the general manager to deny someone to shut off. So I'm glad to see that you don't see a use case scenario for that. So it's just a legalese protection here.
Yeah, well, and if you wanted to postulate of something that could happen, what if there was someone downstream of someone upstream? Let's say there was two customers off the same line, because things were done weird back when we didn't own the system. And customer A says, I want mine shut off, but customer B down the stream, there would be a situation. Does it exist? I don't know, but if you go take a look at what they're digging up on Loop Road, we don't really know what's in the ground a lot of the time.
Okay, so
that fair, Brandon?
sounds weird to me, but I understand what you are trying to say. I don't think that's going to be a use case.
I don't think it would be very common at all, if ever.
Then, let me see if I can find my thing here. I wanted to know if you are going to care about the curb stop, that was actually the curb stop would be removed.
Yes.
And so based on the response that you just did to Doug, that specific owner would not be able to reconnect. That's what I heard. We have only 2 years almost now, because we have this,
That's the more important thing. It's
yeah.
not the owner, it's the time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who the owner is, it's the time.
Yeah.
It goes with the parcel.
Okay, it goes with the parcel. But after now, it's going to be in 2 years from now, something like that.
Correct.
We'd say we would not accept new connections.
Correct.
For residential in existing.
Exactly.
So this is just
Yes.
moving in the right direction.
No, that's the correct interpretation.
So then my next question is, what happens if you don't have a curb stop? You remove everything anyway. So you are basically going to dig at the connection to the main.
Yes.
And then now I have some definition here that I'd like to understand. So in the part 3.5, it starts by promptly. So forgive my French, but can you define promptly for me?
I mean, I would say within the reasonable person standard.
Yeah.
I'll use the legal standard.
Yeah. So that was one. And now we are talking about the case where people actually disconnect because they want a private propane tank. And so one clarification I'd like to have is in the part 5.
Yeah. Which part of 5 are you on?
Part 5.
Yeah.
So that's below where we're talking. Keep doing. Part 5. Here you are. Private propane tank. So you say the policy. You say this policy is adopted. Customer with desire to permanently discontinue receiving the service from the district. Okay. But then after in the part 5, you say it's prohibited from acquiring, installing, operating, maintaining, replacing a propane storage tank on their property at any time while receiving district service. So my question is receiving propane district service or receiving
propane.
Any district
Propane.
service? Because it's important because
It's propane.
Yeah.
This whole ordinance is about propane.
The reason I'm coming there because there is a situation where we want to give a discount. We are discussing that at least for all electric people, and we just want to make sure that people are not going to disconnect their things to get a propane tank so they can get a discount on their all electric. So
That's not part of this ordinance. That's
no,
a
I
totally
understand.
different thing.
It's not
So
yet there, but so
It's not
here
violating
it's
that.
receiving propane district service. So that's a clarification I wanted to have. So we are not prohibiting people to have a propane tank, like said clearly in part 6, and then that definitively will bring the topic of how we do best rebate or discount for people heating with electricity, which is another topic, like you said. So I think that's clarification I wanted to have. So just to understand properly, if people disconnect, they will not be able to reconnect.
based on the time.
So if it's beyond 3 years of whatever,
Yeah.
if it's before, they could.
Yes.
Okay, so I
That's
didn't
how-
understand that, yeah.
So like you said, we're basically at 2 years. So if you disconnected tomorrow, you would have 23 months to come back.
So I think maybe the language could be tweaked to address better, more clarity on that specific section, because you know, for all the customer agree,
Well, they're two different ordinances, that's why.
yeah,
And they go hand in hand, but I agree that part 5, we should add the word propane.
yeah.
That I would agree with that. Other than that, this is written by an actual attorney, not those of us that play one here at the district. And I would defer to him. But I agree, we should have propane in number 5.
Thank you.
Is there any other sections, Bertrand?
So,
Are there any other sections?
no, I think I'm okay. I'm just a bit confused on the way it's worded for the permanence of it. It actually, maybe we should not mention it is permanent. It's just a fact that within about 2 years from now, people will not be able to connect anymore. So I'm not sure, because as of now, if someone in a year from now want to reconnect, we would allow that with all the costs associated, which is non-negligible.
And if we had capacity.
Yeah.
I think it's fine the way it is. I think these,
I'd
I'm gonna design
I'd rather
95%.
overemphasize the permanence of the decision than,
if the
Yeah,
board's,
I'm okay heading in that direction.
yeah, okay.
if the board's done, there are Q&A.
Okay, good. Let's move
Unless
on to
you wanna go-
questions from the audience. then.
Go for, unless John or Doug had any questions before. I
We'll
go
come
on.
back to the board.
Okay.
When we do audience
Pull
questions.
these up here.
Okay.
Which ordinance are you? No, I'm not speaking of 2021.
We don't know. Can you
Can you
please
read?
Oh,
just
sorry,
read
which-
them so we know which one
oh,
you're
sorry,
talking
which
about?
ordinance? If you are speaking, that's a typo, of 2021, there is not specific language addressing water shutoff. The one home that had water shutoff has wood heating, who had the type of heating for 20 years, okay. If they choose propane shutoff, will water continue to be shut off as well? No, if they didn't, if they shut off their propane, they would no longer be in a medium category situation because they wouldn't have propane service. So no, water would be restored. In ordinance 2101, page 6, it says the district will connect water service in conjunction with any propane or electric services disconnection in order to limit the risk, typo, of damage due to freezing unless the peeps, typo, unless alternative form of heat is available. Okay. And is wood stove considered heating alternative form of heating? It would depend on the situation, I would say. Because some heating, some wood heating is dependent on people, whereas the automatic feed wood pellets is not. So.
What we want to know is know that the pipes aren't going to freeze, right?
Yeah. It would depend if that was sufficient alternative.
Okay, are there any other?
So your interpretation of that auxiliary heating system is you basically have a thermostat that basically automatically
It depends on the situation, is my answer.
Okay.
If someone has one potbelly stove for a 4,000 square foot house, I would give you a different answer than someone that has 3 pellet fed stoves in a 1,000 square foot house. It depends.
Okay, are there any other audience questions?
No.
Okay, I'll come back to the board. Any final questions or a motion to proceed?
No, we reviewed this earlier in the week and are in support of the resolution.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and so the motion is to approve the ordinance as written with the inclusion of the word propane in part 5 while receiving district propane service.
Yes.
So the motion was made by Schroeder and seconded by Toronto,
Yes,
just for our clerk's benefit.
right.
All right, Essine,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Minutes-Rhonda,
Aye.
Perot,
Well, I disagree with the ordinance that I do agree with this one actually, and I'm saying aye.
okay, Dornbrook, aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, we're now ready to move on to item 9F. Utility rate discounts, including public benefits charge, enterprise fund utilities, and solid waste.
Yes, so this kind of came out of planning and out of other discussions. Some community communications that have previously been shared with the board about discounts, just generically discounts. So the easiest, lowest hanging fruit is the public benefit charge. The district has been required to do this since the time it took over for Mountain Utilities, but because Mountain Utilities was not required to do this, this never entered anyone's radar. So when it came to our attention, we're now going to proceed. The bottom line is the district needs to prepare a needs assessment, as our recommendation says, to comply with the statutory requirements described above, which is section 385 AB, as well as the requirements enumerated in 386A. And so we would do a needs assessment that considers all of those things and bring that back to the board for approval.
Okay, just to be specific, this is a needs assessment consideration of creating a low income program. Whether there's a need for it, is it
Whether a
manageable?
low income program is created is not relevant to the need for the needs assessment, unfortunately.
Right. So we're doing a needs
So
assessment.
no matter what, we have to do a needs assessment. Then the board can consider what low income program they want to have based on the needs assessment.
What if any?
Correct.
So that means we have to hire a specialty consultant.
Yes, it does.
And how, where does that come out of the budget?
Well, once I get the proposals, we'll be bringing it back for board approval. Since it's an unbudgeted item, anything over 25,000, I always bring back to the board.
I think it might cost that much.
I think it's going to cost more than that.
But we need to be in compliance, so.
Yeah, we don't have a
I
choice.
understand.
But yes, I'm not happy about it either. That we couldn't do it more simply.
How would they go about,
That,
how would a
that's-
consultant go about this?
I don't know what a needs assessment involves. I'm not a needs assessment engineer. I will hire someone with that expertise. So I have no clue.
All we know at this meeting is we're required by law and our intent is to be in compliance
Sure,
with the law. But beyond that, we don't know
I understand.
much.
Just curiosity.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure it complies with all the statutes. That's all. That's the key. Every component of every statute.
But our predecessor never did.
They didn't have to. They were regulated by the CPUC.
Oh,
This
okay.
this only regulates public or municipally owned electric utilities.
Okay,
So it never affected MU. They had to do a different thing with CPUC. So
right, okay.
Yeah, it's IOU versus POU, investors or private or public.
Right, I understand that.
So
Okay.
my next step, if the board concurs, my next step is to go find a consultant to prepare the needs assessment.
Eric, do you want to, or Bob, I guess, do you want us to approve each of these recommendations for items I, double I and triple I independently, or do you want Eric to go through all of these and have one motion?
Eric, what do
I
you
like 3
recommend?
motions. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do them one at a time.
I'll
Thank you.
motion to accept the recommendation here for, what is this, 9FI?
Okay. Is there a
I
second?
second.
Okay. Second.
Okay, that
Okay.
was submitted to Rhonda and Perot, seconded.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Epstein,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
minutes Rhonda,
Aye.
Perot,
Aye.
Dornbrook, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay. So now we'll talk about enterprise fund utilities other than
Other
electric.
than electric, exactly right.
Which-
I did
which
list them all out.
Specifically would be propane and
Wastewater
water.
and water.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So since these are subject to props 218 and 26, there's very explicit things we can use funds for. So we can't, basically, the short version for those that don't want to read all the legalese, we can't use rate revenue to provide different rates to different people for different reasons, no matter what the reasons. That's the short version.
Right.
There are a couple options we could do. So we could use property taxes, of which we have none left. We use them every year. That money tree, although we keep shaking it, doesn't produce anything more. The other option is to do a voluntary bill checkoff program where people could donate, pick a number. SMUD does that, for example, which is the Sacramento Metropolitan Utility District. They do have that, but they have a pretty significant rate base. So they're able to create some program. I don't know how long we'd be able to create it, but it would also be a significant workload for staff. So because we can't do it out of rates, because we don't have property tax, and because it's a workload, staff recommends we do not consider any programs for any of our enterprise funds.
For the other enterprise funds.
For water, wastewater, or propane.
Right.
So my comment on that, I don't disagree with you. I think it could be a lot of burden for a little need. However, since we are going to have a need assessment that's going to be done, can't we wait for that assessment return before we make a decision? Or at least I want us to revise our such a decision upon the actual finding of the need assessment.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So I probably a motion to table this would be appropriate if everybody concurs. If not, then
Yeah.
they can vote.
And it's likely going to come, like you mentioned, but at least it takes things in order.
I have no objection to that.
Yeah.
I would just propose, I mean, I think we could, I agree, Bertrand, I had this similar thought, and I would say the recommendation just could be amended. The motion could be to not do this until we have a needs assessment completed, potentially. It would be a way to rewrite the recommendation potentially.
Yeah, but we are just advising everybody that the options are slim.
Yeah, and the motion to table would be the easiest one, because that would just set it aside until the board's ready to consider it again.
Sounds good.
The cleanest, but
Okay, so is there a motion to, well, first of all, let me see.
I think there's a hand up in the community. If you
Yeah, I
want-
want to see if there's a
want-
question from the audience.
I can't. I'm out of room to see things. My screen's
HM,
small. Oh, no, it's gone.
the hand's gone now.
If there is a question, please raise your hand again. We might have missed it.
Yeah, this laptop's. The disadvantage of being in this room is that I don't have two screens to look at. Versus my office where I could see.
Yeah.
Everything.
Okay,
But if we're moving to table it, then there is no discussion. It's immediate. So it's
Uh,
immediate.
okay. So is there a motion to table?
So I'm confused about the motion is
The
now
motion would be to table item F,
until the need
July.
assessment is done.
yeah, to a later date.
I move that.
Okay, good.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
That was Doug.
That was Doug
Yep, was
seconding.
me.
Doug was the second.
All right.
Okay.
FC,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Minutes-Ronda,
Aye.
Perot,
Aye.
Dormer, aye.
Okay, so the third item is,
Third item is our only non-enterprise fund service. And I think the entire board was there, but if I'm repeating history, stop me, Doug, I guess you'd be the newest. We looked at doing a mandatory ordinance for solid waste not too long ago. We discovered at that time through Cal Recycle that if we did mandatory solid waste, we would have to provide curbside pickup. We have no way of doing that. So the board at that time, and I can't remember when this occurred, I think it was early 21, but the board at that time decided we are not going to provide, make this an enterprise fund because of the requirements that would roll down onto Kirkwood are so onerous as to be unconscionable. And I'll go over that in my GM report of some other things that are coming up on solid waste. So we decided to stay with a voluntary service. So we provide solid waste service to each of the HOAs, and via agreement with the HOAs, they have committed every parcel within their HOA to participate. That's how it's currently framed. That's how it was created back in the day. Not all HOAs were always in, but as of, I can't remember the year, 2005, I think all 22 are in. So this is not subject to anything. The board can do whatever they want to do here on this optional service. So, we need to do a solid waste rate study soon because we need to consider remote dumpsters, which we've been talking about for a while. And that's not, I think the solid waste rate study is 2 years out on our capital plan. So our recommendation is, one, we should wait for the needs assessment. Two, we should wait for when we're going to do the solid waste rate study and not try and shoehorn in a new waste rate study. That's, so I want to add your thing to my recommendation, Bertrand.
So that sounds like, I'd be happy to move that too.
Okay, is there any discussion, any audience questions?
That sounds logical.
Okay.
I'll second it then.
All right, so it's been moved by Bertrand, seconded by Doug.
Okay,
We'll do it.
Steve,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Perot,
Aye.
Dornberg, aye.
Okay, good. We'll now move on to item G, district staffing levels and proposal to create a customer service representative position.
Well, speaking of adding more tasks to our workload, such as low income programs and energy efficiency programs and rebate programs, we are recommending that we reestablish a true customer service representative, pull the phone answering away from all the staff that currently do it, push it into this one position, as well as have them take on the new duties as they come from the board. As I said, energy efficiency rebate program, one person interfacing with the customer, handling all these programs as a true customer service representative. It's not currently a budgeted position, so it will create a increase in salaries and wages to our overall budget. I think it's de minimis in the grand scheme of things of our $12 million budget, but I will, if the board concurs, I would create a new job description, do a salary survey using the same methodology we used last time, set the salary and immediately advertise for the new position.
So let me just first comment. I asked Eric to look into this because I feel like looking at the new employees that we have in and how to line up job responsibilities, having someone who's directly responsible for customer service, I think will be helpful. And I do, at this point, the backlog just keeps growing, that we can't keep up with the items that we're asking staff to do. So I think this is an appropriate use and something I think will provide some significant improvements.
And I'll just also say that I think from our survey results, I think having someone focused on customer service and communications in general will, I think, help engage the community in a more positive way and hopefully increase our scores in some of the survey results next time, and also give the staff who are handling this ad hoc and like more of a distributed system, allow them to focus on their primary tasks, which I think will add benefit to everyone there already.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't disagree.
Just say I agree. That's the same thing.
No, he has his finger up. Give him a second.
Let me explain my caveat here. I know there is a lot of organization, but I'm lost now at what the organization chart is. So I think we should be provided with that. And that would allow me actually to make an informed decision here. My recommendation is, because I've been asking you that for several times already, why each time you have a new reorg, why it's not put on box so any of the board member could access it whenever he needs it. That'd be my recommendation on that. And with my understanding of what's going on, I do agree that having an additional person for customer service, that's going to help dealing with this new work that we have on the public benefit charge. Seems appropriate, but that's with my little caveat.
Yeah, and absolutely, and that's fully on me. But we've had so much change that every time I update it, something else happens as I'm about to send it out, literally about to send it out one day, something changes.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying having it on box, then you don't have to send it. If we need it, we go there and we have maybe not the very latest, but a close version.
I will put that on box.
Yeah.
That will get done.
Yeah.
Not next week, since I will not be here, but the week after.
And the website.
No. that has a confidential.
Privacy.
No, no, no. I meant just updating the website. There's this, it has it on, there's a staff page on the website that I was looking at the other day. that
Oh,
has
yeah,
still-
for the
hasn't updated.
responsibility.
Again, if I had this position, those are things that I could really take on.
I wasn't, just because I was not saying to put this org chart on. there,
Actually,
just the
my
staff.
list of things that need to be fixed on the website is increasing, so it's no longer taken care by the communication committee somehow, but I think there are some substantial issues, not even upgrading to having a dashboard, but there are things that are not working properly in the currently. One thing actually I wanted to mention that while we are talking about our status report, what do you call it? Operation report, whatever, is when I noticed that water in some well is actually lower. So it tends to be lower this year compared to previous year. And I think it'd be useful to have, because currently on the website, you can download data for snow and temperature, I believe. We don't have rain. I'm assuming your weather station is able to collect that data. If not, maybe we should.
No, it doesn't.
I think it'd be a nice, knowing that we have droughts
Why
nowadays.
don't we come back to that
Okay.
after this item? Okay, yeah. We'll figure out a
Yeah.
time to do that. Okay, so
And Eric, you have a hand up.
Oh. Carolyn Scott.
So I would just hope that a customer service rep would have some technical knowledge of things. You know, a lot of times in a business, you get someone who doesn't know anything. They have to go find the specialist. You have to wait on hold and then they come back and it takes longer than if they just knew something. So I agree that the position is important, but I hope it's not just, you know, a receptionist or a clerk.
yeah, this is a multi-purpose job, like every job here. And so, yes, we totally agree with you, Carolyn. Okay, any other comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the creation of a customer service position?
I'll motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Doug, second.
I'll second.
Okay,
Like
Good.
Schroeder.
yeah,
Okay,
okay,
Epstein,
aye,
Schroeder,
Aye.
Ittaranda,
Aye.
Perot,
I,
Thornburg, aye.
okay. The last of the items for board consideration is item H, which is a discussion, possible action. So this came from several sources. One was Doug's observation that we say, yeah, we'll look at that later, but there's no place to write it down. So we know that we will. And then the second is we are getting, I'm grateful we're getting suggestions on ideas and to not lose sight of those, to slot them in when we would choose to implement those. And so the idea of a board planner, and you have a prototype here, when we finish out, I'd actually make it visual. And so it would be on a calendar. But for the time being, Doug and I and Eric took a first task at just looking at what are examples of things that impact the board meetings and occur on a regular schedule on an annual basis, and document those. And if there are specific issues that we say we want to make sure we discuss that the next budget cycle or whatever, then this is a place to document those. So that's one example, would be annual activities. The other would be example of unique tasks. The main ones that we thought of is when rate studies have time durations on them. Typically, we do them in 5 years. So 4 years after approving it, we start in on the next one. So to have a reminder there, and then as part of a rate study, if we've had suggestions on implementation, things to consider, that we mark those down there to make sure that the consultant or whoever is doing the rate study analysis, that we haven't lost track of those items. So that's the suggestion, as we do this, and it would be a public document that would be always be visible.
and I would add the website upgrade on that, or actualization. That'd be somewhere that because it's not happening anywhere now currently. So so you have a bunch of tasks here, but I think reviewing the website every year to make sure it is actually
Okay,
not
I would,
getting stale.
yeah, I would suggest that if communications wanted to put together a structure, then we would add that onto there. Yes,
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a task for the communications.
well, it's a suggestion from one of your members
Yes.
that it,
The website is need work. So let's have a discussion on that.
yeah, and the other one that just occurred to me is the annual customer survey and when that would happen. So this is a place to just collect everything and have a spot to put things. If in a board meeting, we choose to add something to a future scheduled thing, that we have a place to do it. Doug, is there anything you want to add to that? Is this generally what you're looking for?
I think this is great. And I think, as Bob mentioned, the idea would be like putting it into like a Gantt chart type of thing, so you could see the horizons of them a little bit more easily. And in terms of when things are coming up, I think will be really helpful, and including this in a public way that we can update. And again, I think having a way to collect and make sure that we as a board come up with good ideas and then act on them. And then also the community members who come up with our ideas good ideas to consider, we should also make sure to get included and track them. I think this will be really helpful. So thank you for considering doing this.
I like it because it also, I can see how a member of the public might feel very adamant about a topic and could get very frustrated, but might be put more at ease if they see, oh, there is a time frame when this will be considered. You know, because many of the things we do, either because of priority or just because of the overhead, like if you look at the overhead associated with a rate study, it's very high. You know, we can't do those on a frequent basis. So I think that might also add some customer satisfaction for members of the community who want to see some action taken, to at least see it added to a planning schedule of when the district can actually consider their suggestions.
The only other thing I would say is it would be great if we can make sure to always link back to minutes, meeting notes, board documents, board pockets, or whatever for whenever. So it's like, if you just see something listed here as like, I don't know, capacity charge, like that people could easily forget what that discussion was. And so I don't want to have to like keep having to rewrite things, but making sure that we have links back to our history as well, so that we have easy access to whatever these topics might be pointing to as well, would be another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think procedurally what I'd like to suggest is if a topic for consideration is being added, it would be done at a board meeting. And we would include a pointer to the minutes of that board and the board packet to go back to it, so we can find them.
Great. Do we need a motion for this, Bob, or is this just a?
I was looking for a board consensus
Yeah.
to do this
Yeah,
and make this be how we manage future activities that we decide to slot them into a position.
yeah.
You have my consensus.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, then thank you very much. And Doug, thank you for stimulating the process.
You're welcome.
And I look forward to adding this into how the board operates. All right, let's move on to the general manager's report then.
Sure, as I alluded to earlier, it's time for us to file our annual report with Calorie Cycle. As with just about everything else we deal with, we are a one-off and they don't know how to deal with us. They're demanding that we report on Vail's food diversion program. Well, for solid waste, Vail's not our customer, so we can't report on that. But they don't understand how that works. So we're working through with them, and hopefully we'll be talking with Ward Tanner's boss at the next meeting, because he just really couldn't wrap his head around. Well, but they're in your service area. I said, no, we don't have a service area for solid waste. We have contracts. And so it's with the HOAs, we don't have a contract for 50% of the land in Kirkwood, because it's Vail contracts directly with them.
Okay.
So they're asking us to do something we simply can't do. Logistically, we can't, and Vail won't share that data with us. So we're in catch 22. So we're trying to work through that, but this goes to why we don't want to have a mandatory solid waste program. Because we would probably triple costs of solid waste if we went mandatory, triple. And I'm being pretty generous there. It's probably more than that. So the requirements are so onerous as to, we should just get out of solid waste before we go mandatory. That's how bad it is.
Isn't there a high altitude?
There is, and we have that. That doesn't.
It doesn't mean that their staff
doesn't exempt you
understands.
from the food diversion reporting.
Oh,
It exempts us from a lot of things. Now, we didn't get the high elevation because that was only good for 3 years. We got the rural population or the low density population, which got us 5 years. We couldn't get the rural because El Dorado County is not rural, according to them. Only Alpine and Amador. So we did the low population density, which in El Dorado County is like 0.18 people per 10 square miles or 100 square miles, something ridiculous.
Mhm.
So that's what's going on counter cycle.
Let me just say, we feel your pain.
Yes, if you've ever been in circular logic argument, you fully understand my pain. We did hire a new electric propane project manager that will be starting on the 17th. Comes to us with a very impressive construction background and management background. It's going to bring a lot of talent we need to that position. So that will be starting on the 17th. And they right now it looks like they are going to be getting employee housing sometimes for the winter, but they own the parcel at Tragedy Springs. So they will spend their summers at that parcel and commute the whole 7 minutes. That will be the shortest commute outside of the valley. So update on master plans. We've been working on the wastewater master plan for some time now. It's been set aside because of all the things that have happened this summer. And at this point, the wastewater study needs to have boots on the ground. We need to have cameraing, we need to have smoke testing, we need to have people surveying. So we are going to defer the wastewater start time till after winter's done. We'll issue the RFP right when snow starts melting, and we're going to reprioritize the water as the next one we do. Electric's already in process, so that one's going. That'll be the first one completed, then water, then wastewater. But just because of timing, we will not be able to get, and how much we need to do in wastewater, we will not be able to get that done before winter comes. So we've shifted tasks on that, and we'll be working on getting out the water requests for proposals before the end of the year, because they can do that work regardless of weather conditions. And we have a water model, which helps a lot. I think that's all I had.
And is there any update on the wastewater engineering?
Yes, we did have our kickoff meeting, and I've said this in so many meetings, I forget that I haven't said it to the whole board. So we're looking to have the 90% plans in February, 100% plans and bid docs in March, bidding in April, opening bids, notice of award goes to proceed in May. And yeah, that's where that stands.
And today we've only taken down about what, $70,000?
75,000 to date, correct. So that's all we've taken on the short term.
you think the bidding will go that quickly, that we'll be able to start in May?
That's when we would do bid opening.
Okay. So hopefully we'll get some bids.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you want me to disagree with you?
Give you any feedback on how they anticipate the economy and everything being?
We're already pulling items as optional items. We know we're going to have to do that.
Well, out of the bid. It's
Out of the
emergency.
project, out of the original
It's
project. yes.
emergency, yeah, okay. And you've put together a list of those potential?
We're working on it with the consultant, yes.
Okay.
And then I guess the one last thing to mention, this is not her last day, but this will be Kelly's last board meeting, so. Last chance to say what you really think, Kel.
Thank you for mentioning that. I was going to mention it if you didn't. So I would just like to say thank you to all the board for a very interesting 10 years. I've enjoyed my time here, and I am getting a little emotional about leaving. So, but thank you for everything.
We're gonna miss you, Kelly.
Thanks for all your hard work, Cal.
Yeah, thanks for your talent and your hard work, and also adding a great personality to the district.
Thank you so much.
It's a big change for you, and good luck in Idaho.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly, I just want to say, I think I've worked with you pretty much every week for that entire time period. And it's been a pleasure. I like how thorough you are. I like the way you stay calm. And I like the results. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Well, the valley will not be the same without you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, I think Rick's up then.
Well, good afternoon again. October is one of our busiest months for operations, and we are scrambling like everybody else to try to get things buttoned up before winter. But in the next month, next few weeks, actually, we'll see the playground will be deconstructed and stored for winter. Irrigation meters, the 4-month period has ended or will be ending soon. And so our staff will be out turning off irrigation meters to prevent them from freezing, of course. Our staff is also being pulled in a lot of different directions to do field inspections for all the different construction projects that are happening, especially the one here on Loop Road, which has been an interesting couple of weeks and continues to challenge us a little bit with staffing, and inspections. Further, we're preparing for snow removal, of course. Snow stakes will start to come up soon. And then finally, the chipping program, the second round of chipping will also begin next couple of weeks. We were very successful in the September chipping period, and so we hope to button that one up as well. And as discussed in the operations committee, the green waste chipping container will remain on the deck until weather conditions warrant for it to disappear. So, but that's my operation report, unless there's any questions from the board.
And we have the heat pump scheduled for installation, the first phase at the end of the month.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Have we already done the electrical?
Yes.
Oh,
That was the
Really
first.
good. I mean, interesting to see the impact on the summer,
So
on the winter.
it's going to be 4 zones. Four,
Oh,
four-
the wood signal.
4 wall units. Yeah, and 1 compressor in the back.
Oh, okay. So it's a mini split.
It's a mini split.
Good move.
We'll see.
It is.
well, if nothing else, it might be more comfortable here.
Yeah, this is phase 2, by the way, the boardroom, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, that seems only fair.
We'll see how the first one goes.
It makes sense. You take care of the employee first because we are here only once a month.
Okay, and the mini split then is also doing cooling as well as heating.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
So
we're
that'll
not
help.
abandoning our existing system, but we're gonna run some tests and see how things work.
Mhm.
With the new system, can
Yeah.
it handle the load? Does it need the old one to ramp it up in certain conditions?
Yeah.
Whether it's hot or cold, things like that will be we'll have a year or 2 to play with that before we think about doing phase 2,
Mhm.
because it was not cheap.
Okay, Rick, other items?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Rick?
Regarding the chipping, I've heard from the KMA that Amador County is planning on doing another chipping, probably as soon as next week.
That's what I heard was next week.
So it might be good if we can let the public know that they need to contact Amador County if they want to have their piles chipped right away.
Yeah, I think Firewise is taking care of that.
Yeah, Firewise.
That's their job, yeah.
We're doing the
Okay.
messaging on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
so
yeah, I don't know if it, and it's too late for you didn't do a newsletter
didn't do it.
letter this month. okay.
actually every KMA homeowner received an email. So on
Okay,
that side,
good.
yeah.
'Cause-
There is, I hope there won't be a conflict because Qualcomm is coming next week as well. As understood Monday, Tuesday, I'm not sure about that. So I
Or to
hope
do
they will
some
not
paving?
bump to each other.
Or to do paving.
Paving, yeah. So actually, my understanding, because I didn't talk to him last week, but I talked to him a month ago, he was going to come today to do everyone in the valley. So KMA, Bell, and whoever else is actually needing paving work. So my understanding it's going to be Monday and Tuesday. And so I hope they can, I don't know if we should let Amador know that they come after rather than before. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you're getting a free gift and should not look to gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Take it when you can get it.
Cool.
We've been really fortunate, I think.
Yeah.
That Amador County's been so generous this summer. They've done a whole lot of chipping.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to standing committee reports then. We'll start with finance. Anything?
Yeah, finance, well, we focused on the audit, reviewing the audit, and then the financial reports, the update on how much we've taken of the WWTP short-term financing. And I think the other item that we were working on was the special assessments to fund increased fire and safety based on benefit received. And so we retained a special tax consultant. I think they've received some of the information they need from the county, but not all. So there's some progress, but they still need more information from, I think, El Dorado. Is that correct, Eric?
That's correct, yes.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Operations?
I think we covered it all,
Okay, and communications?
but we didn't meet.
Okay. And planning, is there anything you want to add from what you wrote up?
No, I do not.
No?
Nope.
Oh, okay. And personnel did not meet. So that's the standing committees. The temporary advisory, I'm not aware of any. So we can skip right over that. Okay, so general
Is
discussion.
LAFCO still, where does LAFCO fall? Remind me, Bob, is that,
That should
I know
be
it didn't meet,
standing.
but is that in your?
That's a
standing?
good question.
Standing committee is where I would put that.
Yeah, you're right. I should. Okay, well, LAFCO hasn't met since our last meeting.
Did you get any feedback on what we did for them?
No? Oh.
Okay.
I'll check in. That's a good reminder.
No Terry, no Jeff today, so otherwise I'd beat Terry up. She's always helpful.
I'll follow up. Okay. Okay, so general discussion items. Any board members wants to bring up?
I have, oh, go ahead, Bertrand.
Go ahead.
Doug, why don't you go first?
Sure, sorry, Bertrand. I guess there are two quick things. I think one is, I don't know the technical details of how the accounting system works, but I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess we had two scenarios discussed today where there were some mistakes made in terms of how it was accounted. I just was wondering how we learn from those mistakes, or what the process is, or how, are there tests that need to get updated so that we can prohibit that, or what processes update based on when we find things that happen, was my first question or comment, I guess. And then the second one was on, I can't remember, I apologize if you mentioned this, Eric, maybe, but with the electric study, I thought I heard that come up today. So I was just wondering where things were on that and timelines for that, because I thought it was supposed to be done in the summer maybe, but maybe I'm misremembering. So those are the two things I had on my mind.
Yeah, no, we talked about that a while ago. It's due to their availability to physically get out here and have our staff available. So that pushed it off about 2 months because they didn't have staff to get here and we didn't have staff availability with all the projects going on in the valley. So that did occur. So it's in process. I don't know if Brandy has a better update than that.
We are expecting to get results pretty soon. But like Eric said, it was just a staffing availability on both sides didn't mesh up.
Thanks.
And
Okay,
can I make a comment about the?
Yeah, go ahead, Kelly. I was going to ask you.
So those weren't mistakes, Doug. Those were a misstatement of AR balances, and it wasn't actually it's not a misstatement. It's just a reclassification of where balances lie in AR balances lie in the accounting system. So
He's talking about PCS, the two PCS issues, the wastewater and the 4-propane.
That's billing, not accounting. Sorry. Okay. So the billing issue that came through, basically we just need to if we create new rates in the future, we need to doubly test, like do a pre-bill on accounts that are affected by those rates to make sure that they are not being billed improperly. So that was it was when the rate was created, there wasn't a pre-bill done. We just assumed that it was working properly, and turned out that it wasn't. So when and if any new rates are created in the future, we should definitely pre-bill all of those accounts so that we can make sure that everything is working properly.
And we did that for electric
Mhm.
to verify it, but it was missed for wastewater, because we have
Yeah,
already
it was,
done
it was the wastewater high strength new rate.
Yeah,
that was created.
it was a new category, and we have checks for all the other categories, but that new category didn't have a check. Otherwise, it would have caught it immediately. So the lesson learned is that after a rate study, we need to make sure there is nothing that could impact that we haven't tested for. That I see that would be the lesson learned for my part.
And I would just ask Kelly, like, make sure to document this before you leave or whatever's, this is like the board calendar,
Tommy
it's
is
like whatever,
aware.
where does this go, right? And that's the idea. Like the board calendar is that part of the same idea. Is like, well, how do we document the lessons learned for rate studies that happened 5 years around?
Right.
Like those are the types of things I think are hard, but I just encourage you to make sure that that stuff's left behind and that we know about that, and we can remind ourselves in our checklist of whatever we're doing as an implementation plan for a rate study as it gets going the next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
And
it.
on the propane one, why 4 accounts out of 500-ish accounts had that glitch? That's truly a computer glitch. That's just an oddball, and we don't know why PCS had those 4 accounts that mispopulated without the wrong decimal place.
And there is a check in place now for that as well. There's a report that we can pull that shows all of the different multipliers, and that's how I found those 4 accounts, was by pulling that report. So
Excellent. This is proper QA.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Did you have some comments you wanted to add?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So first, clarification on the consent claim. So I saw that there was an RPM expenses. So are we getting a new RPM or repair? Or
Repair.
Repair. That was the first question. Second question, there was a PERS retirement system, whatever you call that, for 1 employee. Why is it just 1 employee?
I don't know to what you are referring. You should have done this under consent for claims.
Yeah, it's Pellerin.
It's what?
Okay, I go
What
get it.
page? Do you remember?
Okay, I'm looking at it. I'm too fast. It's page,
Do you remember the name of who it was for?
I think he said Pellerin.
yeah, it's page, what the page, 17, Pel 001. No, I'm sorry, PERS 001. So there is some payment to a public employee retirement system,
Hold on, I gotta close some of these other windows out. Sorry.
page 17,
Yeah.
the one before last.
that's our payment for our pension. That's our
Yeah,
retirement.
but my question is, oh, it's for all people. It's okay. I'm confused.
Yeah.
I saw Pellerin, but Pellerin was above, so now I thought there was some change in, okay.
No,
This is
no.
PERS for all the employees, not for
Yeah.
employees. That's
Correct.
answer my question. Thank you. Now, next on things I think I'd like us to look at in the future is seeing that some of our well actually are lower levels than previous years. And I know we have very dry summer. I think it'd be interesting to have rain data so we can have a sense of correlation between precipitations and our well levels. I'm surprised we don't have it, because it's most weather station nowadays offer such a thing. So, and if we do, then it'd be cool to have that on the
Yeah,
website.
the weather station here is owned by the Air Quality District, and it's done as a compliance mechanism. And then they loan us the data.
Okay.
But it
That's
has,
what it is.
It's what it is. It has temperature and
And
we have someone with a stick.
snow.
Someone goes out and looks at it.
So
Yeah.
for the snow, there is a.
There's a
stake
stake right near the
and
where
we
the
collect
flagpole
No, we
and somebody
actually-
goes out and
there's
looks.
no stake. We actually go out with a yardstick.
Oh, okay.
It's,
Yeah, but we don't have anything that would melt the snow to measure it or
Okay.
anything like that.
No, at least.
The ski resort has a weather station where they monitor snowfall.
Yeah, do they have rain? I don't know. I don't know how much rain actually contributes to our aquifers.
I mean,
I don't know that the aquifer level is related to rain at all because most of it's
well,
snow melt.
that's what we would see.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I say I don't know.
So,
Okay, So-
I don't know. I mean, nowadays we can purchase things that are with downloadable data at a very reasonable cost. So I just wonder if at some point we could look into that. Irrigation. So my 2 questions on irrigation. So on the water performance, is it looking at all water, including irrigation, or just water that we actually sell as water, not irrigation?
it includes all metered water.
But irrigation.
Irrigation meters
So
included, yeah.
that's for construction, it's all our water.
Yeah, it's water that's metered. Yeah.
And, okay, so I'd like at some point that we revisit this irrigation mechanism that we have currently. The reason being, first, at that time when we did change to it, we were thinking about using some rebate system. We never done that. I think I'd like to reopen that for discussion, explain some at some time somewhere. So that'd be one of my requests. The second request I have is I think it'd be interesting, and I don't know if we should just first go to the finance committee, but at least or the board directly, that we should look at that proposal from Howard on the wastewater rate. And I think there is value to what he's proposing, and I'm hoping that we can look at it and make some opinion on that. So I don't know if you prefer doing that at the finance committee level or at the board level to start with. I'm fine with both. And so either we like to have a discussion at the board level at the next board meeting, or if we think this is something that could be hashed first at the finance committee, I think it'd be interesting to look at this proposal and the impact. You last meeting, you asked me to send you some kind of ideas on the full-time resident versus weekenders. And I did, but it was saved on the OneDrive from Microsoft, but I just disappeared, so I can't do it.
All right, that sounds good.
That actually, this discussion is actually true for every service that we have. Electricity is one, but wastewater, water, propane. I think we should have an assessment of the fairness of the thing. Basically, what we did by allowing the EDU to go to 0.5, which is almost against the principle of EDU. EDU is actually, the way people use it, typically, you cannot go below 1. Everyone needs to pay his share. And so I really think it's time for all utilities that we have a look at that. And what Howard is proposing is actually exactly that. So I really think either at the finance committee initially or at the board level first, we need to have a discussion on that. That'd be something I'd like to see approach and discuss. That's my comments.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything else?
No, I think he makes a good point.
Mhm. Okay, well, we can't
I
have
know,
a
obviously.
conversation right now. Okay, without it being calendared. Okay. Good. With that, then, any
The
final?
only last thing for general discussion is the board content with having the holiday party after the board meeting and at the regularly scheduled December meeting, which I believe is the 9th.
Right, it is the 9th.
So we'll try and start getting that planned.
Okay, it's consensus that we'd have the holiday party. for the
How-
employees.
And
We'd have the holiday parties for the employees after the board meeting on the 9th.
that's Friday.
That's Friday the 9th. We do it.
because-
Yeah.
In December?
Yes.
9th of December. Yes, the second Friday.
Sounds good.
Okay. And I really liked what we did last year. I felt at home, not like we were at somebody else's house. And I thought it worked very well. So I would hope we would consider that again.
We'll pursue that.
Okay, Doug, is that work for you? The
I think
date?
that should be fine. Yep. Thanks.
Okay. All right, John?
He mouthed yes, I saw.
Oh, okay, all right. I saw the thumb. Okay, good. With that then, this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
4 o'clock.
Guys, have a good weekend.
Okay.
Everybody.
All right.